Christopher Abeyta was taken from his crib sometime during the early morning hours as his mother, father, brothers, and sisters slept nearby. Bernice Abeyta says she fed her son around midnight last night, and when she got up to check on him early this morning, he was gone.
I would like to ask anybody that has any information concerning my son to please help us find him so that I can, tomorrow morning, like we usually did at 4:30 in the morning, cuddle up in bed and nurse him. I beg you, please, please. Christopher loves me and I love him very much. I need him very much. Please help us.
Well, at this point, it's kind of like walking up to a blank wall that has absolutely nothing on it. We're not making much progress at all. Just, as a matter of fact, we're not making any progress at this point.
So you've never seen a case like that?
This is about the blankest case I've ever come across without leads in my 18 years with law enforcement.
In Colorado Springs, on the night of July 15th, 1986, a 7-month-old baby named Christopher Abeyta is taken in the night. 38 years later, he has still not been found, nor has any major suspect been identified. Hello everybody, and welcome back. We will be talking about the abduction and mysterious disappearance of Christopher Abeyta. As of writing this script, the case is still open, and the family is still looking for Christopher through age progression models. There's also still a reward of $200,000 on any information leading to the arrest of this kidnapper. Now, going into this, I will give a little disclaimer. This is a very, very sad case, but the family's sheer determination kind of like uplifts the case a bit and makes it maybe a story about perseverance. Maybe that's what you could take from this. I really respect the family's perseverance. It's been 38 years, and they still maintain a Facebook, a YouTube channel, their own website. They even went on a podcast, and I have massive respect for that. But anyways, let's get into this. Christopher was the youngest of 7 children in the Gil and Bernice household. There was a significant age gap between Christopher and his siblings, with 4 of them living in the house at the time. In 1986, before the kidnapping, Bernice found lipstick on her husband Gil's shirt. Believing he was having an affair, the couple would separate, and as a result, Gil would move to Pueblo. He would often visit his family during this time, and the couple eventually seemed to reconcile, with Gil spending the night on July 14th. Later in the day, Christopher's sister Denise would feed Chris afterwards. Chris would fall asleep in her arms. An important note at this moment is that the crib is 3 feet away from Gil and Bernice's bed. At around 12:30 on July 15th, Chris was fed again for the last time. Another important note also is that they had left the front door unlocked for their oldest child to enter the house, because apparently he was out late. At 6 a.m., Bernice would awaken, with Christopher being gone. His blanket left on the floor next to his crib. She frantically looked in the other rooms for any trace of him, but to no avail. She did, however, find the front door to be partially open. At 6:30, she called the police. The police arrived at 6:45. Afterwards, they would search the home. They found a purse sitting out in the open, and it was not stolen, nor was it moved. They also discovered the basement window to be open and the garage door opener to be missing. Now, the part about the purse is kind of important here, because it helps you to gauge a motivation for whoever did this, because it was not financial. Because they took the baby purse out in the open, this purse with money in it. They don't take the purse. They just want the baby. So that is a interesting little anecdote there. That's interesting. There were no other signs of forced entry to the home, and the neighbors did not report seeing anything strange or seeing anything strange that night. The same day, the family would hold a press conference where Bernice pleaded for the return of Chris. What followed was an extensive search by the police department searching for him. The authorities received many tips from locals at this point, and the family also came out saying that they would not press charges against the kidnapper as long as they just returned Chris. They just wanted Chris back. The police would drain a nearby lake in order to find him, however, nothing was found. The police also told the family to leave a phone line open in the event that they may get a ransom call. The police, as in most crimes, suspected the family in his disappearance. After all, Gil and Bernice had recently been separated, and Chris had disappeared on the first night that Gil had stayed over. The police had other reasons too, like Gil's statement that he was, quote, not excited for the unplanned pregnancy. In addition, the fact that no one in the house heard anything that night. However, I will say it's not, I feel like someone could break into a house and not make that much sound, and also it's like, what, he was kidnapped from like 1 to maybe 3 a.m. I feel like you wouldn't really hear anything because everyone would be asleep at that time. However, when Gil was questioned, he denied all allegations and he passed a polygraph exam. To be fair, a polygraph exam in 1986 is probably not very accurate. The police's suspicion of the family makes sense when you consider that 0.5% of abductions of children are due to strangers. Meanwhile, Bernice failed 2 polygraph exams. However, this was most likely due to stress and withdrawal from her medications. After failing the first exam, she would be interrogated by the police for a grueling 6 hours. The police even accused her of smothering Christopher and throwing him into the nearby lake. She denied the allegations and was never charged. The police in 1991 stated that the family are no longer suspects, but they were also not currently looking for leads into the case. But let me say real quick how bad I feel for the mother here. She got questioned for 6 hours. 6 hours right after losing her son. And in that 6 hours, they spent time interrogating her, saying, you killed your own child. And unfortunately, it is common in these cases for the parents to be at fault. You even see this in murder cases. If you look at the statistics, usually when a family member gets murdered, the top suspects are the family members of that person, because usually there's some sort of motivation behind that, some sort of, like, I want to say anger towards that person. I'm not really sure how I would explain that. Resentment. And at this point, I'm still convinced that someone who did this, although I don't really suspect it could be one of their siblings, but I think that at this point it has to be someone who really knows the family, because, like, how would they do this abduction so surgically? It's like they know everything, because they didn't wake up anyone, they didn't even break anything, they didn't steal anything. Like, they knew what they were doing. Like, obviously they knew what they were doing. Authorities believe that foul play was involved in Christopher's disappearance. The police even looked into baby selling schemes, stranger abduction theories, child predators, and revenge-type theories. However, they have not found anything supporting one theory over the other. Christopher's family believes that he was abducted, and Bernice believes that the police did not take the abduction theory seriously because of the failed polygraph exams. Christopher's family believes that he was abducted, and Bernice believes the police did not take the abduction theory seriously because of the failed polygraph exams. So the family decided to do their own investigation. Gil quit his job and searched for Chris. 2 of Chris's sisters dropped out of school to find him, and they even set up a toll-free hotline for tips. In addition, they also formed an organization, Families of Missing Children, a nonprofit where families who had also lost children could support each other and help each other out where they can. The family used to watch the supermarket where Bernice had been with Chris the day before the abduction. They watched for weeks, looking for suspects, looking for clues, really anything they could get. They even traveled to Mexico to try to spread word about the case. They would even hire private detectives and personally trail suspects to find him. They sold their house and cashed out their retirement fund to have more money in aid of the search. They would ultimately spend 30 years looking for Christopher. And actually, that is just Bernice. That's Bernice spent 30 years looking for Chris. The family is still looking for him. Chris's family also believes the abductor was someone who knew them. So this is, as I was saying, it's someone who probably knows the family, someone who knew them, someone who knew their habits. They also believe Chris is still alive, believing that he may have been raised by another family, not knowing about his original family. The family has a website dedicated to the case, as I mentioned before, and they believe him to be in New Mexico or in Texas at the moment, as they have multiple unconfirmed sightings of Chris. Bernice even looked in obituaries to see if anyone had lost a child recently, and if they would be desperate enough to steal someone else's child from them. And they actually found that the same person who signed Chris's birth certificate had lost their child the day before Chris's disappearance. She then would move to Australia. However, after informing Australian police, nothing came of this lead. The family to this day believes Emma to be the abductor. So here's where we get into like the main theory here. Emma is the woman who had an affair with Gil. In addition, she has a history of breaking into homes. The family believes that taking the child was a way for her to get back at the family. According to the family, she had tried to contact Gil the night of the disappearance, calling multiple times until midnight. The family also reported getting hang-up calls 6 months prior to the abduction. They paused the day of the disappearance, and then they would resume several months later. Although that could be a complete coincidence. That could be a complete coincidence. It can be a complete coincidence. Police traced these calls to Emma, and phone records also indicate that Chris's grandparents were also being stalked in the months prior to his disappearance. Which I couldn't really find more information on the stalking there. I didn't really know, like, I couldn't find much on that. Emma had also been charged beforehand with stalking and harassing a married man who was trying to cut her off. She even at one point entered the man's home and started removing family photos from his walls. She also sat outside of his children's school and threatened them. Now, most of this is eyewitness. To be fair, most of this is eyewitness. I'm not throwing any hate towards Emma. I personally think she might be responsible. She might be worth investigating, but I'm not saying anything. Well, I'm not slandering Emma. It was also discovered that she had spent time in mental health facilities during the 1970s and the 1980s. In addition, the day of the kidnapping, she had missed work. Although, a quick note, this came from the family's Facebook page, I believe. And in addition, I've heard that it was the day before, but I've also heard that it was the day of. There's different sources on that. And here's a very strange thing. This is what really makes me think it's Emma who's involved here. Emma was found to be leaving strange comments on the family's Facebook page 30 years after the affair, saying that Emma must be a strong person if she reads all the family's Facebook posts. So, this is like extremely strange to me. Because if there's no involvement, why would someone be commenting this? Maybe because they're like self-centered. I genuinely have no idea why someone would ever comment that. Either she's not smart or... No, she's not. I doubt she's dumb. She's not dumb. But, it's just strange. It's very strange. Though to this day, she maintains her innocence, and the police have not named her an official suspect. And although this, obviously, here's my, disclaimer, although this may seem cut and dry that Emma is responsible, as I said, a lot of this is eyewitness. It's not, super confirmed as being true. Personally, she should be looked into, in my opinion. Just saying, maybe a little. But I'm also saying that don't go slander this person. That's why I'm not saying her last name or where she's from. Don't slander them. Don't slander them. Because they could be completely innocent, and I don't believe in harassing people for no reason. At some point in the case, the Colorado Springs Police Department destroyed 11,000 pieces of evidence in 4,000 cases. Unfortunately, Christopher's was one of those cases, with most of the evidence being lost. It was a huge hit to the family, and Gil was in disbelief, feeling that most of the family's life work had been wasted. This is actually a question I have. If anyone watching this is law enforcement or something, how does this happen? How do you just lose 11,000 pieces of evidence? How do you destroy that much evidence? How is that even possible? I get that there's probably some sort of like really advanced way they keep track of all the evidence, like for what case each piece of evidence is for, but it seems to happen so much in these cases, and it's annoying. And actually, the family accused the police department of negligence and underexperience. And they didn't even take fingerprints at the crime scene, apparently. Which is, like, come on. It's 1986. We've had fingerprints for a while, I believe. Like, and they didn't take fingerprints. Why? To be fair, though, with such a well thought out home invasion, I would imagine that they were also wearing gloves. So, and now we get into some of the more modern information. In 1996, a 15-year-old boy tried to kidnap an infant from a mall, which is very strange in and of itself. That's a very strange thing for a 15-year-old to be doing. The mall was in Fort Walton, Florida. He abandoned the child after being chased by the mother. Police arrested him and his companion. So I think more than likely this kid was convinced by this old gentleman, 34-year-old James Bergen, to do this act. But anyways, in a bizarre coincidence, the police would learn that his truck was registered to Chris's brother Gail. Gail had sold the truck to him, but had never changed the registration. In addition, James had been stationed in Colorado Springs in the 1980s. However, nothing was found connecting him to the case. So this is just kind of a bit of a weird coincidence that this is even happening at this point. In 2013, Emma would sue Chris's family, saying that the family had defamed her and interfered with her employment. The jury sided with her and awarded her $150,000. See, this is partially why I was saying don't slander her. I'm kidding. The main reason is just don't slander her. I don't think slandering people is good. Anyways, unfortunately, in 2016, Bernice was diagnosed with terminal gallbladder cancer. One of her last wishes was to find out what happened to Christopher. Sadly, this would not happen, and she would pass away in 2017 at the age of 73. You know, that really, really sucks, dude. You just had your whole life derailed by this insane event, and you don't get to see it get resolved. That's, like, extremely sad to me. As this is still an open case, also, if you have any information, there's a number to call. It's 1-800-THE-LOST. There's dashes in between that. I'll put it on the screen. And there have been some recent developments in the case, according to the family's Facebook page, post like from a few weeks ago. Apparently, another person of interest has been named in the case. I couldn't figure out if it's Emma or if it's another person. And also, a new lead investigator has taken over the case. And as of 2024, the family is still looking for him. However, they do accept the possibility that he may be dead. And I have some quotes here. So I have, quote, "But we choose to believe he is alive just because of the way it all happened. In 10 years, we have become very, very knowledgeable about missing children. The chances of someone taking a 7-month-old baby and killing him for what? The chances are in our favor." And I think that's a very good mindset to have towards this. Why would you abduct a 7-month-old just to kill it? What is the point of that? They're completely right. And yeah, I share that sentiment. It doesn't really sit right to me. Why would someone do that? In my opinion, it would have to be someone trying to get revenge against the family, someone having a grudge against the family, or maybe someone who's mentally unwell, or maybe someone with just no motive. I mean, you see serial killers who kill people with no motive at all. They're just like, oh, that, like, there's just no motive for some people to do these heinous acts. And they also, with the theory that he is still alive, they believe that, as I said, that he was raised by another family. So I think that's also a very possible theory in this case. I think that could be the case where he got abducted, raised by another family, and maybe he's living in a different state, a different country. We don't really know. But if that happened, he would probably never find out that he was abducted unless he saw the websites, the YouTube, the Facebook. he would have to basically find information about it, and then somehow he'd have to like put two and two together, despite probably not having any memory of anything that happened. Unfortunately, personally, I put a little more stake in the theory that he is not alive. And I don't mean that from like a very negative way. I think it's very possible that he is alive. But if I put it as a percentage, I'd say like 65% chance he's not alive at this point. But maybe he still is. And that's why the family keeps looking, because they don't know. There's no answer yet if he's alive or if he might be out there. And I hope he is out there. And it's really just a tragic case here, where the police kind of just like fumbled the evidence. The case is obviously still open, and I hope it gets found one day. And I hope whoever committed this crime does get caught, and maybe they'll turn themselves in. Maybe, you never know. They might. But anyways, yeah, I think it's really admirable in this case how the family is still actively looking for Chris. I mean, the parents spent 30 years looking for Chris, and now the daughter, I forget her name, she is taken over. She runs the Facebook, she runs the YouTube, she runs everything basically. She's basically taken over it, and I really respect that. But anyways, that's about it for this video. This is like my first video on this kind of a topic, so I hope you excuse anything I may have gotten wrong, any information I may have gotten wrong. I feel like in the future I'm going to just I'm going to try to raise the quality until I get to a very high standard. But that's this case. It's really sad. And if you have any information, obviously call that number. Thank you for watching.
They are now broke, supported by 5 other children, but far from ready to quit.
People ask us from time to time, when will you stop and have a normal life? This is normal for us. This has become part of our life, and we're not going to stop.